I returned from the hospital and discovered that my daughter-in-law was living in my room. When I asked my son what had happened, he pointed to the doghouse and said, "Now you'll live here." So I moved into my $1 million estate. A month later, he asked to stay with me. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. The driver eased to the curb and cut her blinker. Morning sat grey on the street, a thin mist hanging over the lawns. I gripped the doorframe, took one breath to quiet the ache in my ribs, and stepped out. The tires crackled on grit. I could smell wet leaves and somebody's old grill. "Home?" the driver asked, folding my receipt. "For now," I said. The meter read $185. I counted bills into her hand and added $25 in cash because she'd carried my bag and hadn't asked about the scar that pulled at my side when I stood. She nodded, professional, eyes soft for a moment, like she knew enough not to say she knew anything. "You want me to wait?" "No, thank you." She pulled away slow and the mist swallowed her tail lights. I stood at the foot of Michael's porch. Last time I'd climbed these steps, I'd been holding a plastic hospital bag and a walker I tried not to need. A paper wreath still hung on the door. Emma's initials cut from construction paper. The tape had gone cloudy. My key stuck, then turned. The house smelled of lemon cleaner and somebody's perfume I didn't recognize. I set my bag down, let my eyes adjust. The hallway rug was new. The old coat tree was gone. Voices upstairs. Laughter that didn't belong to my son. I took the first steps, careful and steady. One hand on the rail. At the landing, I heard a suitcase zipper sing through the air, then another. I reached the top and stopped. My room, what had been my room during the long month of healing, was open. 2 rolling suitcases stood against my dresser, bright blue and hard-shelled, one with a sticker of palm trees. A pair of boots sat where my slippers used to live. The bed had new sheets I'd never seen. The photograph of Robert, the first kept on the nightstand, was gone. "Can I help you?" a young woman asked, emerging from the bathroom with a hairdryer in her hand. She had a ring in her nose and the kind of smile that was supposed to soften bad news. "We thought the house was empty." "It's not," I said. "Who are you?" A man stepped from behind her, all elbows in cologne, holding a shirt by 2 fingertips like it might bite him. "I'm Barbara," I said. "Michael's mother." "Oh," the woman said, and her eyes did a little dance I didn't like. "We're friends of Jennifer's. She said we could." "Mom." Michael's voice, closer now. His footsteps clicked down the hall. "You weren't supposed to be here until this afternoon." "I'm early," I said. The surgeon's office pushed my follow-up. He smiled too fast. Great. Mom. You scared us, just showing up. You should have texted." "I did." "Well, I didn't see it. We've got guests for a week. You'll be so comfortable." He pointed down the hall, not toward my room. "We cleaned the place for you. It's cozy." "Which place?" He moved to the window and tugged the curtain back with 2 fingertips. Out beyond the patio and the small rectangle of lawn, the old doghouse sat under the maple. Cedar shakes. Peeling. The roof I'd built when Jennifer wouldn't. The door still chewed on the left side where the shepherd used to gnaw when thunder rolled. I could smell wet straw just seeing it. "You're joking," I said. "We made it nice," he said, voice bright as wrapping paper. "Blankets. A lamp. We ran an extension cord. It's only for a week. The couple in your room." He tilted his head toward the suitcases. "They're paying rent. We need help while Jennifer's hours are cut." "You're not paying rent." The man in the cologne lifted his eyebrows like this was all normal. The young woman stared at me with a kind of pity that felt like a finger on my cheek. "Michael," I said, steady. "Move their things to the guest room." "There is no guest room, Mom. You know that. Move them to your room." He laughed. "That's not realistic." Jennifer appeared at his shoulder, one hand inside a bag of pretzels. "Morning, Barbara," she said around a mouthful. We were going to text. You're early. We had a plan. You put strangers in my room, I said. Just for a week, Michael said. It's not a big deal. You'll be fine. It's like camping. You love the outdoors. I like the outdoors from inside, I said, with a chair and a thermostat. Jennifer smirked. It's summer. It's not, I said. It's whatever it is, and my body reads the weather different now. The scar tugged, a small angry thread. I breathed through it. Mom. Michael's voice softened in the way people use when they want to move you like furniture. We are doing our best. You know, bills have been bills since bills were invented, I said. My eyes moved to the nightstand. Where's your father's picture? In the drawer, Michael said. I was going to put it back. I opened the drawer. The photograph lay face down on top of a nest of loose cords. I turned it over. Robert looked past the camera at something just to my right, like he always had. Amused and patient. I lifted the frame. The glass had a new nick right over the curve of his jaw. I slid the picture into my bag. Mom, Michael said again, folding his arms. Please be reasonable. We're talking 7 days. The doghouse is a doghouse. We vacuumed. Terrific. Jennifer's chewing slowed. She glanced toward the window and back to me. The couple with the suitcases pretended to fuss with zippers. I could feel the hallway fill up with all the words nobody needed. A neighbor's mower coughed to life out front. Through the open window, I heard Mrs. Chen's old engine and her radio tuned to the ball game recap. I imagined her steering slow, telling herself the lines didn't have to be perfect. The smell of cut grass pushed at the lemon cleaner. I'll get my papers, I said. What papers? Michael's eyes narrowed. Insurance, the will, the folder with numbers that keep other numbers from stealing my roof. You don't need those, he said. That's why I need them, I said. You're making a scene, Jennifer said. But she'd lowered the pretzels, which told me the scene made her nervous. I walked to the closet. My cane wasn't in its usual place. Someone had leaned it behind the hamper. I took it, more for certainty than need, and went down the hall to the small office under the stairs. Michael followed, talking softly about how hard things had been, how the kids had activities, how Jennifer's mother might help if she could, how the church had a program but the paperwork was endless. I nodded at the places a person nods when she hears her own past offered back to her like a casserole. Meant kindly, made hastily, more starch than nourishment. The lockbox was where I left it. I spun the dial, lifted the lid, slid the folders into my bag. The weight found my shoulder in a way that felt right. Mom, he said, this is not fair. We cleaned that space. We put a lamp. Michael, I said, you pointed to a doghouse. For 1 week, he said. We're doing this for the family. You rented my room, I said. You don't have a room, he said. You live with us temporarily. You said so yourself after the surgery. I said I'd heal here, I said. I didn't say I'd practice obedience. He pushed air through his nose the same way he used to when he was 16, and Robert told him no to the late movie. The echo of that boy pinched something behind my ribs that had nothing to do with stitches. We have to be practical, he said. They're paying. And I paid, I said. Different ledger, same city. What does that mean? It means I'm not sleeping in a yard while strangers leave their boots under my bed. Jennifer leaned into the doorway, hands up like a referee who doesn't want the ball. Barbara, come on. It's 7 nights. Then you and Michael take the doghouse, I said. Set an example. Silence. In the quiet, the radio outside mentioned a double in the 8th. A car door somewhere slammed. The house ticked. Fine, Michael said at last, brittle. If this is about dignity, be dignified and meet us halfway. Use the den. We'll put up a curtain. The kids can bunk with us. We'll make it cozy. People do this all the time. No, I said. Why not? He snapped. Because you pointed to a doghouse when you knew I'd just taken out stitches. That was last month. It was 3 weeks, I said. Time lives longer in a scar. His face did something small and pained. And for a moment, I saw the boy who used to curl his feet under Robert's leg on the sofa and ask for one more story. Then it was gone. He shook his head. You're being dramatic, he said. Maybe, I said. Or maybe I'm being old. Either way, I'm still being. I zipped my bag. The sound made Jennifer flinch. Michael watched my hands like he wanted to take them off and put new ones on that would do something else. You're not going anywhere, he said. You just got here. Watch me. You can't drive. I can dial. Who? Jennifer asked. You calling a friend to crash with? That's awkward. I looked past her into the living room. On the console table, a stack of envelopes waited. One bright white. Registered mail. Small window. HOA letterhead in pale green under the return address. Unauthorized occupancy, the line beneath it said, neat in its printer font. I let my eyes rest on it one beat too long, then looked away. Michael followed my gaze and moved to block the table without thinking about it. You can't do this to the kids, he said, lower now, almost a whisper. They're at practice. They'll be home at 3. You leaving sends a message. It does, I said. What message? That grandma's not a porch step, I said. You don't wipe your feet and keep walking. That's cruel. It's clear. He swallowed and looked past me toward the stairs, toward the room with the bright blue suitcases, toward the tidy curve of a plan where everything was temporary and soft. Jennifer's jaw shifted like she was chewing rust. The couple down the hall made suitcase noises again. Mrs. Nolan. Mrs. Chen's voice floated in from the open front door. She stood on the porch with her mower idling behind her, hat in her hands. Her eyes moved from me to Michael and back. Everything okay? Fine, Michael said too quickly. Everything is absolutely fine, Mrs. Chen. We're fine, I said gently. Thank you. She watched me for a beat longer than a neighbor needs to. Her gaze dropped to my bag, then she nodded. The small, respectful kind a woman gives another woman when she sees something she recognizes. She stepped back and the mower coughed again, then faded. Mom, Michael said, I can't believe you're making this hard. We are family. Then act like it, I said. His eyes glossed, and for a second I thought he might break and I might catch him, but he straightened instead. If you leave, that's on you, he said. Don't you make this about us. Everything about us is about us, I said, and it came out calmer than I expected. Jennifer cleared her throat. Look, we've got a lot going on. If you're going to be like this, we'll have to rethink things. Finances, scheduling, the kids' weekends. I can't keep juggling. You won't have to, I said. She frowned like she'd misheard. I lifted my bag, tucked Robert's picture deeper so the glass wouldn't catch. The extension cord to the backyard was coiled neatly on a hook by the garage door. I let my hand rest on it a moment, then left it where it was. The phone was on the kitchen wall, old habits dying slower than most creatures. I dialed the number from the card I kept in my wallet, the one the first driver had given me, just in case I ever needed something longer. A woman answered. I gave her the cross streets. Long ride, I said. Yes. I'll be ready when you are. Where are you going? Michael asked, arms tight, his voice cutting the air like a paper slice. I walked to the hallway and took my light jacket off the hook. The surgery had made me cold even when the room said I shouldn't be. I patted the pockets, felt the thin envelope of my prescriptions, the small assurance of a folded note with 3 phone numbers and 1 name in my own hand. At the front door, I stopped and looked back once. The blue suitcases gleamed under the bedroom light. Jennifer scrolled her phone. The couple murmured. Michael stood with his hands pressed white against the counter, watching me like a person watches a storm move toward a town not on the map. I'll be in touch about the kids, I said. Tell them I'll call at 7. You can't just. He bit the rest of it. You can't. I opened the door. The air outside tasted green. Mrs. Chen gave me a small salute with 2 fingers off her cap. I nodded. The sun pushed at the edge of the mist like a coin rubbing a pocket thin. The cab rolled up 20 minutes later, paint dull with sun, trunk held by a strip of bungee that flapped like a lazy lizard's tongue. The driver leaned across and popped the lock. Where to? She asked. I took one last look at the house with the doghouse behind it. At the extension cord coiled just right, at the paper wreath with my granddaughter's initials fading on the door. I breathed in. I set my bag on the seat beside me. I gave the driver an address no one in that house expected. The driver glanced at me in the rear view as she eased from the curb. This will be a haul, she said. You sure about the address? I'm sure. She nodded like a woman checking her own knot before lifting a weight. The city slid away in sheets. Fast food roofs, storage units with doors like candy bars, a billboard that promised relief if I dialed a number with too many 7s. The sky was thin and bright. My side pulled. I adjusted the seatbelt and breathed through it. We didn't talk at first. The tires hummed their ordinary music, and the lane markers met and passed like tired women shaking hands. I kept my bag by my knees, one hand on the folder inside like it might try to run. The picture of Robert pressed a steady square against the fabric. Family out that way? The driver asked eventually. Something like that. She let that be enough. Good drivers know when not to pick at a scab. We stopped for coffee at a place that promised real food on a sign with paint that couldn't agree about red. Inside smelled like fryer oil and cinnamon. I stood at the counter and felt the old trick of being a woman alone. The clerk's eyes counting my age, the pause where she tried to decide if I needed an extra hand. You're good, I said, and she slid the coffee across and I did not spill a drop. Back in the car, I texted the number I'd written on the folded note. Emma's. Then Lucas's on the second line. The grey bubble hovered and then a word came back like a pebble skipping. Hi. I typed that I loved them and I would call at 7. A thumbs up popped from the screen and I could hear Emma's small, serious voice saying, "Okay, Grandma," like she was already measuring something she'd have to carry. The highway widened, then narrowed. The driver rolled her shoulders and told me her name, Patricia, like a woman making the inside of a car friendly enough for both of us. You ever notice, she said, how the sky feels bigger once you leave the exit signs? I notice, I said. Past the farmland, the air changed. A lake does that. It sneaks up in the way the wind carries itself. The clouds flattened and the light went pale as a nickel rubbed thin. We turned off the interstate and followed a long road bordered by trees with their leaves all talking at once. Lakewood Springs lives where the map forgets to brag. The first thing you see is a grain elevator with rust-like freckles, and the second is a split rail fence around nothing. Then the town. One main street, a diner, a hardware store with a window that displays an oddball collection of things no one can name but everyone recognizes. A hand drill, a blue mason jar, a rake tine bent like a question. Pretty, Patricia said, meaning small. We passed a brown sign with an arrow for the public beach, then a wooden one that just said ridge and chiseled hooks, as if the rest of the word was not for strangers. Up another mile, I said. The estate sits outside the town, up a long drive that curves through old oaks and then straightens at the last minute like a woman making up her mind. Aunt Margaret called it an estate to tease it. It's a big old house with too many windows and a roof that always needs a ladder. On the approach, the trees open just enough to let you see the lake if you stand on your toes. Here, I said. Patricia slowed. Gravel popped. A careful, crisp sound. We rolled between the gate posts that still held Aunt Margaret's initials, burned into the inside edge where most people wouldn't look. The driveway lifted and then flattened before it gave us to the front steps. You want me to wait? No, I said. I felt for the envelope for the tip I'd prepared and then stopped myself. I'd done that already this morning. Twice in one day made generous by habit. You've done right by me. She put it in park and watched the house like she was trying to decide who it belonged to. Big place, she said. It's just a place, I said. Big is something else. She smiled once. Small. Good luck, Mrs. Nolan. I waved. The car eased away down the drive, the sound thinning until the trees ate it. I stood with my bag at my feet and let the quiet arrive. The front steps kept the shape of my feet from a younger life. When I bent to lift the old brass cap at the base of the porch post, the screw fought me, then gave. Aunt Margaret's trick had always been a silly thing to me as a girl. What kind of grown woman hides a key in a magic compartment? But after she passed and the house fell quieter than houses should, I asked the post's forgiveness. My fingers found the key and the cool folded slip of paper that had lived with it as long as I can remember. If the lights don't come on, check the second breaker. It sticks, Margaret had written in her square block print. It was how she said hello from wherever she'd gone. The lock turned. The door opened like a throat clearing after a long silence. Old houses hold their own weather. This one smelled like lemon oil, last winter's dust, and the cold iron of the radiators, even when they're asleep. The entryway gave me the study to the left and the parlor to the right. The parlor held the piano with the one stubborn key you had to nudge like a mule. The study held a lamp with a pull chain I never stopped loving. I pulled light. I pulled again to make sure it stayed. I put my bag down and walked the house slow, not to inspect, but to let it inspect me. The kitchen had a note stuck to the fridge with a magnet shaped like an orange. Welcome back. Check the basement dehumidifier. I smiled. Aunt Margaret signed her notes with chores. In the dining room, the long table waited like a patient she'd return to soon. In the hallway, the runner had a snag at the corner where she always said she would cut a thread and then didn't. Upstairs, the guest room had fresh sheets. I knew they were fresh because they were the thin ones, the set you never use on company because company might judge you. She had not expected company. On the way back down, I stopped at the landing where the window looks above the back lawn to the thin strip of water you can catch when the trees are ready. A gull skated past. The sound it made was not pretty. I liked it anyway. I checked the fuse labeled, pump. I checked under the sink where she kept extra bags for the can under the sink. I checked the small tin box in the pantry that still held the emergency roll of bills Aunt Margaret used to laugh about and say, "If you get to this, you've lost twice." I boiled water for tea and used a mug with a crack that hadn't decided what to do about being a crack. At the table, I opened the mail. Mostly catalogs for people who want to sell people my age tools with handles that promise to make stubborn things less stubborn. One envelope had my name in a firm hand. No return. I knew the loops. "Barbara, if you're reading this, you made it back," the note said. The words didn't pretend to be surprised. "Check the upstairs closet for that old sweater you like. I turned the mattress last fall. The roof will ask for attention in the spring whether you agree or not. Eat a decent breakfast." She'd placed the letter where I'd find it without effort and without drama. It lived in my hand a moment, warm from the lamp. I stood and went to the closet. The sweater waited, folded like it had been hiding from me. I pressed it to my face and it smelled like cedar and a hint of her tobacco from years ago. The kind Robert called the old library smell. I put it on and the day sat on my shoulders more politely. I made a list. The first item was, call kids at 7. The second was, basement. Aunt Margaret sometimes left small problems for future women to solve so we wouldn't forget we were women. Downstairs, I found the old sump and its loyal stool. The dehumidifier blinked its small orange eye to say it had been working and had produced proof of its work. I emptied the bucket, wiped the drawer like a person with time, then came back up and sat on the second step from the bottom because Robert used to say that step had the best thinking in it. I pulled out my phone to check for surgeon messages and saw a new email from the hospital billing office. I opened it and let my eyes move through the words until they hit the sentence that told me insurance liked me enough to be complicated. I read it twice, then a third time, doing the math without numbers just to measure my own breath. I didn't panic. I wrote, call billing under basement, and put the paper on the table because lists behave better when they can see the room. The sun moved across the floor by inches. Houses tell time like sundials with rugs. I walked the perimeter once more to make sure the windows behaved. The kitchen window stuck. The little latch in the back bedroom shrugged. I made notes. Latch. Kitchen rail. Filter. At 6:45, I sat in the study and watched the second hand on the wall clock practice its small responsibility. At 7, I tapped Emma's name. Grandma. Her voice lifted and fell like a bird working the wind. It's me. Are you home? I'm at the other house, I said, the one with the trees taller than the roof. Can we come? Lucas cut in. Dad says we're busy, but I don't think we're that busy. You'll come on a weekend soon, I said. We'll see the lake, and there's a piano that squeaks. Do you have snacks? Emma asked. Practical. I have the kind that look healthy and taste good enough to trick you. She laughed. The sound reached across miles and found a part of me I'd pretended I didn't still own. Dad says hi, she added, automatic. Tell your father I'll call him tomorrow about your schedule, I said. You sleep. You do your homework. You remember to look up when you walk so you don't miss the nice parts. What's the nice parts today? Emma asked. A gull that didn't try to be beautiful and ended up it anyway, I said. That's weird, Lucas said, which meant he liked it. Good night, small humans, I said. I love you. Love you, they said, and the phone did its soft click. I ate an apple and a slice of cheese because the note told me to eat a decent breakfast, and I decided sometimes breakfast comes at night if a woman is getting her feet under her. Then I walked room to room and turned off the lamps, letting the house draw itself smaller around me. In my old room, the one that never stopped smelling like dust motes and a summer that never quite arrived, I lifted the window an inch to let in night air. A tiny spider froze on the sill, and we agreed not to make anything of it. In the mirror, the line where the surgeon had done his work looked less angry in this light. The skin had learned the trick of relaxing. I touched the spot lightly. We're fine, I told it, like it was a person who needed telling. I slid between the cool sheets and lay on my back and listened. Houses talk a lot when you haven't for a while. Settling boards, a pipe shrugging, the small tick that says electricity is real. Somewhere outside, a fox made the sound that tells mice to reconsider their evening plans. I felt the day begin to lift off my chest. I thought of the doghouse and the extension cord and the words, "You're not paying rent," and the little ember that sentence had left in me. I let it glow without feeding it. Sometime after I'd named the main creeks and decided which ones could be left alone until morning, I heard tires far off, the sound reaching us through the trees like a rumor trying to be true. Headlights skimmed the ceiling in a soft arc and then vanished. Another turn. Gravel answered, quiet at first, then sure. I sat up. The room held its breath. Down the long drive, a pair of lights began to crawl toward the house. Headlights slid across the ceiling and faded. Gravel whispered, then went quiet. I swung my legs out of bed and stood still until the house told me what it wanted to do about uninvited company. A knock. Not shy, not loud enough to wake guilt, just enough to claim ground. I took the stairs slow. Through the sidelights, I saw Michael's face first. Winded, bright with the kind of determination that pretends to be concern. Jennifer hovered behind him, hands in her jacket pockets, the posture she uses when she's decided she won't be blamed for what she's about to say. I opened the door but kept my body in the gap. "Mom," Michael said. "Thank God. You didn't answer your phone." "I was asleep," I said. Jennifer sniffed the air like she could smell money. "You made good time," she said. "We had to hit a couple construction zones." "You drove up at night," I said. "We were worried," Michael said. "And we needed to talk face to face. Can we come in?" "You can stand on the porch," I said. "It's dry." He blinked. "Mom, it's late. Say what you came to say," I said. She glanced past me into the foyer, At the old mirror with the bevel that always makes a person look like they've told fewer lies than they have. This place, she said, like a spell. It's bigger than I remembered. Jennifer leaned to look over my shoulder. How many rooms again? 10. 12. The roofline's classic. A guy at work flips houses. He'd say this is worth over $1 million easy. Your guy at work flips houses she doesn't live in, I said. That's kind of our point, Jennifer said, brightening. You shouldn't be here alone. It's not safe. We thought we could all make this work. We help you out. You help us out. By renting my room, I said. Michael's mouth tightened. Don't start with that. That was a misunderstanding. You pointed to a doghouse, I said. That's not a verb I confuse. She put a hand to her forehead. A quick stage wipe. 7 days. 1 week. You know how bad our mortgage has gotten. Jennifer's hours. Jennifer's hours are Jennifer's hours, I said. Mine have been carved on lately. Jennifer rocked on her heels. It's a lot of property to manage. Lawn, roof, taxes. This is a project. I'm good with my hands. We could get a plan together. Get the place producing. Weddings. Retreats. We've got friends who'd pay to stay weekends. We manage it. You take a cut. My house, I said, is not a theme park. Michael's smile thinned but stayed glued on. You don't need all this space, Mom. You get lonely. It's okay to say it. We'll make a little apartment for you on the first floor. We'll handle the complicated stuff. You can relax for once. I relax fine, I said. It looks like a list and a cup of tea. Okay, she said, letting the smile drop half an inch. Then at least let us stay here for a few weeks, just to get our feet under us. In exchange, we'll coordinate maintenance, handle bills, sell a few antiques you don't need. No. Jennifer lifted a hand. You didn't hear the numbers. I've heard enough numbers, I said. I've given enough numbers. What does that mean? Michael asked. In the city, I said. Before your doghouse, there was a house. Before that house was your down payment. The envelope had $180,000 written on its flap. My handwriting. Jennifer's face moved like a woman doing math she hoped she'd misheard. Michael looked down at the porch boards, and for a second I saw him 10 years younger, with a pen between his teeth and the loan officer waiting. He breathed once. And we're grateful, he said slowly. We have always said we're grateful. Grateful is a word, I said. Ledger is a thing. She flinched and recovered. That was then, she said. This is now. We are drowning. We need a solution that helps everybody. Family sticks together. Family doesn't point to a shed, I said. Stop saying that, she snapped, the thin wire of patience popping. You're making it sound cruel. It was cruel, I said. You just dressed it in a lamp. Jennifer stepped closer to the threshold. I didn't move. We drove all this way to talk like adults, she said. Don't make this a door thing. It is a door thing, I said. That's the point of a door. She tried to laugh. It didn't travel. You can't keep us out of a property the family needs. The family needs boundaries, I said. Michael shifted tactics so quickly I could hear the gears. Think about the kids, she said softly. Emma misses you. Lucas won't say it, but he does. How is it good for them to see you up here alone when we could make a home together? They could have their own rooms. We could. The kids always have rooms here, I said, with quilts Robert made when he was stitching his way through spring. Rooms don't raise children. Neither do schemes, I said. She stared at me like I'd reached into her pocket and taken out something soft and private. I'm trying, she said. I'm doing everything I can. I called Pastor Linda. She said she'd drive up this weekend and help us all talk. She thinks you might be overwhelmed. A neutral third party could. I don't need a referee, I said. It's not a referee, she said quickly. It's guidance. She knows families. She knows what scripture says about caring for parents. Then she can preach it to you, I said. On Sunday. Jennifer rubbed her jaw, eyes scanning the entryway again, counting something I couldn't see. We can't leave without having a plan, she said. We don't have gas to keep doing this dance. You drove up without a plan, I said. You arrived at midnight to pressure a tired woman on her porch. We were worried, Michael said. You weren't thinking straight this morning. You bolted. I walked out your front door, I said. There's a difference. She put both hands into the pockets of her coat like she was anchoring herself. Wind off the lake moved through the oaks and strummed the porch rail. Somewhere down in the dark, a branch tapped a regular beat against the side of the house. I'm not the enemy, she said. I know, I said. But you're acting like one. She swallowed, the muscle in her jaw shifting like a knot working loose. If you won't let us stay, then at least let us inventory. Some of this stuff it's excessive, Mom. Silver you never use. The chandelier. These things could help us all. Those things were bought by people who were dead, I said. They're not inventory. They're a language. That's sentimental, Jennifer said. You can't live on sentimental. You can die on it though, Michael said, dry. And we can't afford to die. I stepped onto the porch and closed the door behind me. We stood in the circle of the weak porch light. 3 figures with our own shadows. Gravel ticked under a tire somewhere down the lane. Probably a raccoon testing the world. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to drive back to the city tonight or in the morning. You're going to tell the couple in my room to pack, and you're going to return the key to the place it belongs in your house. You're going to cancel Pastor Linda. And you're going to bring Emma and Lucas up on Saturday. Michael blinked. All of us, she said quickly. We'll all come. Family day. We'll barbecue. Just the kids, I said. Her face sharpened. You don't get to cut us out. I'm not cutting anyone out, I said. I'm inviting the only 2 people who didn't point to a doghouse. Jennifer exhaled through her nose like she'd been holding a breath since my first no. You can't do that, she said. I'm their parent, and I'm their grandmother, I said. I'm the woman you told to sleep in a yard. That is not what, Michael started, then stopped. The truth caught in her teeth and stayed there. Saturday, I said. 10 in the morning. I'll be waiting at the gate posts. We'll walk the drive and see if the squirrels have chewed through Aunt Margaret's old wire again. We'll eat sandwiches at the kitchen table. We'll talk about school and whether a gull can be beautiful by accident. Then I'll walk them back to your car at 4. Michael stared at me like she could alter the shape of my words by looking hard enough. And if we show up with Pastor Linda? She asked. You'll turn around, I said. And if we show up with the kids and ask to come in anyway? You'll turn around, I said. Jennifer shook her head, a small angry metronome. This is insane. You can't keep this up. You'll need us. I hope so, I said. Someday. Not tonight. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Michael. She put a hand to his arm, then let it fall. The confidence that had driven them up the highway all those miles began to leak like air from a tire. Slow, refusing to announce itself. She wrapped her coat tighter. Mom, she said, quieter than I'd heard her in months. You're choosing a house over your family. I'm choosing a line, I said. I hope you come stand on your side of it. She nodded once, a sharp little motion like she was cutting thread. She took 1 step back, then another. Jennifer followed, all jangling keys and thin anger. Saturday, I said. She lifted her chin. We'll see. I watched their tail lights trail down the drive and disappear into the trees. The wind moved again, gentler this time, like it had found something else to bother. Inside, the house had kept its temperature without me fretting over it. I stood in the entryway and felt the ache in my side notice that it had been asked to do work. I thanked it out loud, which made me smile at myself. On the hall table, I set a note card and wrote in block letters, Saturday 10, only the kids. I propped it where I'd see it when doubt came to try a new voice. At 10 that night, the lake spoke in its sleep. At 3 in the morning, a pipe clicked. At 5, a gull filed an unreasonable report and left. When the light finally pushed itself up the stairs, I made coffee and took it on the porch and watched a squirrel hang upside down to examine us both. The phone buzzed. A text from Michael. We'll come. 10, I typed. I'll be at the gate. I put my thumb over the keyboard and did not add anything else. Some things get shorter when you say them too many times. I set 2 quilts on the bench by the door, not for show, for a day that might pretend to be colder than it planned. I walked to the gate posts and brushed my fingers across the burned-in initials on the inside edge where most people wouldn't look. At 10, a car turned in from the road and crept up the drive, slow and careful. I watched the windshield, my heart doing its measured work. Only 2 small heads were visible above the dashboard. They tumbled out of the car with backpacks and opinions. The lake wind caught their hair and made Lucas look like he'd stuck a finger in a socket. Emma carried a jar with a plastic lid she'd punched holes in. For frogs, she said. Serious. Or air. We'll let the frogs keep their air, I said. But the jar has potential. I opened the gate and we walked the drive. Who burned those letters? Emma asked, tracing Aunt Margaret's initials on the inside of the post. A magician who hated showing off, I said. Same, Lucas said, and marched ahead like the trees had invited only him. Inside, the house remembered how to sound with children in it. Doors became lighter. The floor quit squeaking on purpose. In the kitchen, I put out toast and jam like a woman making a promise in pieces. The kids ate like people who distrust small plates. Between bites, Emma read the note Aunt Margaret left me and squinted at the part about the roof. What does it mean the roof will ask? That roofs have voices, I said. You learn to answer in a ladder. That's weird, Lucas said, which still meant he liked it. We did a tour. The parlor piano complained at the same key. They liked that best. In the study, I pulled the chain on the lamp and announced it with ceremony. In the back hall, I pointed to the scuff where I'd tripped when I was 16 and tried to pretend I was the sort of girl who ran indoors. We looked in the pantry at the tin box with the bills and did not touch it. We looked out the upstairs window and watched a gull miss a landing and try again. At 10:30, my phone lit up with Michael's name. I watched it dance on the table and then let it stop. The kids were building a fort with quilts and the chairs Robert always said had honest legs. Some calls improve a day by waiting. We walked to town after lunch. A man with a cap that said, Simmons Feed, honked and waved like he'd been rehearsing. At the hardware store, the owner shook my hand twice. You Margaret's niece, he said, not asking. She never paid full price because she brought cookies. He slid a paper sack across the counter. Washers for the kitchen window on the house. If they work, you can say I knew what I was doing. Lucas peeled one from the others and held it up to the light. It's a tiny record, he said. Don't play it, I said. It gets offended. At the diner, Frank refilled our waters until the ice cubes confessed their secrets. Your aunt left me a crossword book in 14, he said. She said I needed harder words, and she wasn't wrong. He bent to Lucas. You have your grandma's eyebrows. That's a compliment where I'm from. My dad says my eyebrows are heavy, Lucas said. Tell your dad heavy is what keeps a kite attached, Frank said. Then to me, quieter. The pastor from the city called last night. Asked for me. Left a number. She said to keep an eye out in case you seemed off. I told her we keep eyes out on each other as a matter of course. You doing all right? I had a surgery, I said. It went as surgeries go. I'm fine. We're fine. I figured by the way you cut the toast in triangles, he said. Crazy people make squares. On the way out, the bell over the door made its friendly clatter. A woman in a church team sweatshirt looked up from a table and gave me the expression polite folks use when they're not sure if you can be trusted with county ordinances. "You're Barbara," she said. "I heard you were back." "I am," I said. "I heard you sometimes get confused," she said, like she was reading the weather. "Sometimes," I said. "Then I get unconfused. Same as most." "That's good," she said, and turned her smile on the kids. "You two be gentle with your grandma. They're better at that than adults," I said. "On average." We left it there. A rumor is a small dog. If you chase it, it thinks it's the boss. Back at the house, we fixed the kitchen window with the washers the size of tiny records. Emma held the screwdriver with the kind of reverence she usually saves for insects. Lucas handed me screws one by one like we were keeping score. When the sash slid cleanly for the first time in a year, we applauded in the quiet way that fits a kitchen. My phone lit again. "Michael." I texted, "With the kids. Call at 5. She didn't reply. Good fences, like short sentences. We walked to the school in the afternoon just to see it. The custodian let us peek at the gym because he said he had exactly 3 kind bones and one of them was for children. The secretary on summer shift wore a sweater with a pine cone on it. "We take weekend visitors in stride," she said when I introduced us. "You'd be surprised how many cousins appear in June. If they ever enroll, bring immunizations, a utility bill, and something from someone who can spell guardian in their sleep." "I can spell it awake," I said. "Good start," she said. "We like awake." On the walk back, Emma held my hand and counted blue things. Lucas named birds with confidence that didn't require accuracy. A neighbor in a yard full of lilies waved us over and without asking any names, handed the kids 2 cold lemonades and a story about a fish that got away just long enough to make the retelling worth it. Kindness comes in the textures you forget to miss until you touch them. The day found its rhythm. Snacks became negotiations and then treaties. Reading became an argument settled by shared pages. They napped in the room with the quilts and woke surprised to have slept like travel hadn't asked anything of them. At 4:30, my phone buzzed with an email from the bank. Subject: Action required. I read it and felt the old trick of time slowing just enough for breath to organize. An external transfer had been initiated and flagged. The bank wanted to confirm I'd authorized a new link with an account ending in numbers I recognized in the way a person recognizes a cousin's face. The email used the language banks use when they're being polite about something untidy. I called the number on the back of my card. "We're seeing a pending link to a third-party account," the woman said. "It failed the text verification, so it's frozen. Do you want to cancel and reset your security questions?" "Yes," I said. "Has anyone else had access to your device?" "No." "Do you know the intended external account holder?" I did. "Yes," I said, and gave the name. There was a pause long enough to count my own pulse. "Understood," she said. "We'll block attempts and mail a confirmation of the declined link to your registered address. You'll also get a notice to any authorized users." "I don't have authorized users," I said. "Then just the registered address," she said. "It'll arrive certified." I thanked her but felt zero triumph. Good fences again. I wrote bank on the list because lists make problems feel like employees. At 5, I called Michael and put the phone on speaker so the kids could hear and we could all be inside the same sentence for a minute. "We fixed a window," Emma announced. "And we saw a gull that wasn't even trying," Lucas said. "Good," Michael said, voice tight. "I've had a day. We need to talk logistics." "We will," I said. "Not during their visit." Silence, like the phone had ducked. "Are they eating?" she asked. "We fed them," I said. "And they fed me large opinions." "Put them to bed early," she said. "They get cranky past 8. "We know cranky," Lucas said. "It lives at our house sometimes." Michael tried to laugh. It didn't stick. We'll pick them up at 4 tomorrow. Jennifer has a thing. 4, I said. I'll walk them to the posts. After dinner, we watered the tomatoes Aunt Margaret had planted and then forgotten on purpose, so I would have a task to find. Emma knelt and talked to them like they were tiny green sisters. Lucas stood with his hands on his hips and told the hose how a person should behave in public. The son quit trying and went to sit down. At baths and pajamas, the fort returned and gained a flag made from a dish towel. I read a chapter from a book in which a dog solves crimes by smelling facts until they tell the truth. The house leaned in to listen. The kids fell asleep mid-mystery. I put the book face down like it was catching its breath. The text arrived at 9 from an unknown number. Heard she's fragile. Might need supervision. We can help. L. I stared at the L until it turned into a woman in a pulpit holding a microphone like a baton. I did not reply. I set the phone face down and let the message live where messages go when they're not welcome, outside, knocking softly at their own pride. In the morning, the house put on a sweater of fog. We ate pancakes that looked like the continent nobody moved to. Frank had sent a pie via a boy with a bike and an understanding of pie logistics. We drew a map of who would eat which slice and decided everyone should trade halfway through. The kitchen window slid up and down on its new washers like a person who'd just learned a better way to breathe. Around 10, a car slowed at the gate and idled longer than a car needs to idle when it's lost. We stayed on the porch. After a minute, it drove on. Some people come to see if a rumor lives in the wild. Some get bored when it doesn't perform. At noon, the mailman knocked with the back of his knuckles like he was tapping a melon. Big envelopes, he said, handing me a stack and a smile. The thin ones are meaner. He pointed to Emma's jar. You got anything in there? Emma said. Best catch you'll make, the mailman said and went back to his truck. We sorted the mail on the hall table. Catalogs. A flyer for a band that wanted to be more famous than their instruments. A postcard from a roofing company with a name that sounded like it wanted to have a beer with you. One envelope had my name and the bank's logo in the corner and the green stripe that announces itself like a drumline. Certified mail. I turned it over. Another envelope sat tucked behind it, addressed in a careful machine-perfect line to my son at my address. Same logo, same stripe. Both required signatures. The mailman waited while I signed his little gray screen. 2 certified, he said. You got the important look on your face. I'm practicing, I said. He touched the brim of his cap and left us to it. On the hall table, Emma laid the lemonades like trophies, and Lucas sorted flyers into piles labeled yes, no, and weird. I opened the first certified envelope. Mine. The bank confirmed the blocked link, the reset, the new questions only I would answer correctly. Polite words doing firm work. The second envelope wore Michael's name but my address. Same logo, same green stripe. I held it a second too long. Is it Dad's? Lucas asked. It is, I said. You going to open it? Emma asked. Equal parts curiosity and law. No, I said. I'll hand it to him hand to hand. They accepted that as the shape of the world. We made sandwiches and ate on the porch because starch outside is better than starch inside. At 2, my phone rang and pulled at the quiet like a hook. Mom. Michael's voice came raw, as if he'd run upstairs that had too many floors. Are the kids okay? They're fine. We're on bread and virtues. What's wrong? Silence, then the kind you fill with facts because the alternatives are worse. There was a paper on the door when we got home yesterday, she said. Notice. It says default. It says foreclosure. They've been calling Jennifer for weeks and she said she had it handled and then she doesn't. She said her parents would help and now they're not answering. Their phones go straight to voicemail. I tried the bank but they said words I didn't recognize and none of them meant breathing. Mom, can you? She stopped. That simplest currency had gone expensive. Breathe, I said. 2 in, 4 out. On the second set, some part of the thread caught and held. If we lose the house, she said, where do we go? Where do the kids? I shouldn't have said, the doghouse. I shouldn't have. Later, I said. Right now, we decide what the children do tonight. We'll pick them up at 4. No, I said. They'll stay with me tonight. You and Jennifer handle your papers without handling them. I can't. They'll think Grandma kept her promise, I said. Tell them we're trying a longer weekend. Tell them you love them. Then go drink water. More breathing. Okay, she said. Okay. Can we come up and talk? All of us. Pastor Linda is with us. She's been calming Jennifer down and she says, no, Pastor, I said. Not today. She's a mediator, she said, trying to put a new coat on an old chair. She knows families. She knows. No, I said. You and Jennifer may come tomorrow. On the porch. Not tonight. Why not tonight? The wire in her voice pulled tight again. This is urgent. I have the kids, I said. Urgent doesn't get them. Mom, she said, the word wobbling like a table with a bad leg. Please. Tomorrow, I said. Bring your IDs and the kids' birth certificates, school contacts, medical cards. Things you should have had the first time you pointed to a yard. Silence. What is this, Mom? Are you trying to take them? I'm trying to keep them, I said. There's a difference. If the floor is falling, I stand where it isn't and hold what I can. She didn't answer that. Okay, she said finally. Small. Tomorrow. Also, I said, you have certified mail here from the bank. Oh God, she said. What now? I haven't opened it. It's yours. I'll hand it to you when you arrive. Okay, she said again, like the word might begin to mean something if she said it enough. Tell them we love them. I will, I said. After we hung up, I sat with the kids on the porch step Robert used to call the thinking stare. I told them their father needed time to fix grown-up papers. I told them they could help by being children on purpose. What does that look like? Emma asked. Sticky hands and good hearts, I said. We can do that, Lucas said. Already sticky. Frank sent over soup because he said soup is a verb in this county. We played cards. The house did its old job of holding mood when bodies can't. At bedtime, I told them 2 stories and 1 true thing. If a gull fails twice, the third try is for luck. Does that work for people? Lucas asked, voice cotton soft under the quilt. Sometimes, I said. Sometimes the third try is when you ask for help. In the morning, fog had the color of paper someone had erased too hard. I brewed coffee strong enough to negotiate and swept the porch because movement builds patience. At 10, a car rolled past the gate, backed up, parked crooked. Michael got out first. Jennifer came around slow, shoulders up like she'd expected snow and found rain instead. No in-laws, no pastor. Small mercies. I met them at the posts. I handed Michael the certified envelope. Her fingers shook as she signed the mailman's green slip I'd kept. She tore the top and skimmed. Color left her face and then argued with itself about returning. They blocked the transfer, she said, voice flat. It says an attempt was made to link our account to yours and failed. And we can appeal in writing if we believe there's been an error. There hasn't, I said. She blinked fast. I didn't mean, Jennifer said it was an automatic thing. She said our bank must have. Jennifer stared at the trees. We were trying to simplify, she said. We manage the bills. Your account pays them. We reconcile. It's normal. It's theft, I said. She sucked air through her teeth like a mechanic delivering a price no one likes. Strong word for family, she said. Accurate word, I said. I'm done with softer words that mean harder things. Michael pressed the paper flat against her palm as if the right angle might fix it. "We're drowning," she said again, quieter. "Jennifer's parents said they'd float us this month and now they're not answering and there's a notice and if we miss another payment they said 30 days and then." She swallowed. "We need a plan." "Here's mine," I said. "The children live with me for now. You will have supervised visits on weekends at set times. We'll write the times down. We'll stick to them. I'll handle school registrations and doctor appointments here if this becomes long. In the city, you'll talk to the bank, to work, to whatever help is honest and doesn't require my roof as collateral. No more schemes. No more pastors with clipboards." Jennifer laughed once, a short bark that didn't have enough dog in it. "You can't just decree that." "I can offer it," I said. "And I can act on it if you refuse. The judge will care about doghouses, certified letters, and blocked transfers. She will care about children sleeping where the adult's heat doesn't go out at 3 a.m. Michael's eyes filled and didn't spill. "You'd take us to court," she said, like she was checking if the word still meant what it means. "I'll file for temporary guardianship if I must," I said. "I prefer a plan we make ourselves like decent people." Jennifer set her jaw like a woman biting leather. "You don't have proof of anything," she said. I took my phone from my pocket and scrolled. "Voicemail," I said. "From you 3 days ago." I hit play. Jennifer's voice filled the space between the posts. "If you're going to be like this, go find yourself a motel. We'll sort your stuff out later." Jennifer went still the way a deer goes still when it learns a new sound. I didn't. That's not. I swiped to the next item. "Photographs," I said. The extension cord coiled just so. The doghouse under the maple. The bright suitcases where Robert's photo had been. Dates attached. Times attached. Michael stared at the screen as if wanting to crawl into it and wipe it clean with her sleeve. "Mom," she said. "Small. Please." "Also," I said, "the HOA letter on your door. Mrs. Chen sent a picture yesterday because she likes me more than she likes gossip. Unauthorized occupancy is the phrase." "Oh God," she said, and the sound wasn't an oath so much as a diagnosis. "Pastor Linda called the diner," I added. "She asked the town to keep an eye on me. People here have their own eyes. They don't need hers." She covered her face with the certified letter and breathed like a person learning again. When she dropped her hands, she looked 10 years older, which is to say she looked the age of a woman carrying too many bills and one very wrong idea about dogs and houses. "What do we have to do?" she asked. "Agree," I said. Out loud, in front of your own ears. No maneuvering. No new definitions. "We agree that the kids stay here." "For a week," Jennifer said. "Not for a week," I said. "For as long as it takes to build ground that doesn't swallow them." "That's open-ended," she said. "So is love," I said. She blew air out through her cheeks. "This is crazy." "This is clear," I said. Michael looked toward the car, toward the road, toward a horizon that hadn't been offering much lately. Could we see them?" she asked. "Now. Not to take, just to see." "Yes," I said. "On the porch. We'll have lemonade. Then you'll drive back and make the calls you need to make." They followed me up the drive. On the porch, lemonade staged a small miracle. How sugar and citrus can negotiate between two people who haven't been fair to themselves. The kids climbed into their laps without asking permission from the day. Emma explained washers with a patient engineer's hands. Lucas announced his eyebrows were heavy and useful. Michael listened like a woman being given water after too long. She asked about bedtime and vegetables and whether a piano can be tuned with a hammer. Jennifer smiled at the right places and avoided the wrong ones. When Emma handed her the jar of air, she held it carefully. Some women know how to cradle a thing they can't fix. At 4, I walked them back to the posts. The oaks stood like they know how to witness without swearing. The car door thunked the way car doors do when a day is ending. "Tomorrow," I said. 2 hours. You come, you leave. We repeat. We keep repeating until the repeating turns into something steadier. Michael nodded. I'll bring papers, she said. Birth certificates, insurance cards, the school thing that says records. Good, I said. Bring honesty too. She looked down. I'm trying. I know, I said. Try where it counts. They drove away slow. The kids waved from the porch like sailors who trust the shore more than the ship. When the car turned onto the road, Lucas dropped his hand and said, Dad looked like he swallowed a lemon with the peel. She did, I said. The world is tart sometimes. After supper, I typed a list on the study table. It was titled in block letters, What We Keep. Under it, I wrote the kids' names. Then, routines, roofs, rules. I added another line, respect. I looked at the word a long time until it started to look like a piece of furniture someone had sanded too smooth. Then I put the pen down and let it cool. The phone rang at 9:30. Michael again. Her voice had been through something. It came out quiet, like a room after people leave. The bank says we have 30 days, she said. They said there's a possibility of loss mitigation if we come in person with documents. Jennifer's parents, they're in Indiana. They sent a text that said they can't be involved in legal matters and we should talk to a lawyer we can't afford. Pastor Linda thinks we should all live together for accountability and stewardship. I told her no. That last part is progress, I said. I've got the kids' papers spread out on the table, she said. It looks like a nest. I don't know what half of it means. We'll sort it, I said. Bring them tomorrow. We'll make copies. We'll make a binder with a label so the universe knows not to act surprised. She was silent a long time. Mom, she said. I'm sorry. I believed the part of her that had finally walked through that door. Thank you, I said. The line went quiet again, but didn't hang up. Some calls don't need words. They just need the sound of two people not leaving. The next morning, rain braided the air into ropes. Michael and Jennifer arrived on time with a paper grocery bag full of documents and two faces that had learned something about gravity overnight. On the porch, we sorted birth certificates, immunization records, school forms, insurance cards, consent for treatment, emergency contacts. I made piles. Piles turned panic into paper. We'll need a letter, I said, from both of you, stating that the children are staying with me and that I have permission to handle school and medical decisions while they do. Jennifer shifted. That sounds like giving something up. It sounds like giving something structure, I said. Michael looked at the kids through the screen door, at Lucas coaching Emma on how to position her fingers for the wrong piano key to squeak exactly right. We'll sign, she said. Jennifer stared at her. You sure? She nodded. We are not losing them to our mess. She rubbed her eyes with the heels of her hands like the day had sand in it. Fine, she said, barely above a whisper. I brought out the good pen. We dated the page. They wrote their names. I made copies and slid the originals into a plastic sleeve because one good habit begets others. At the end, Michael didn't stand right away. She looked down at the ink like it was a small animal that might bite. When she finally rose, she leaned forward, elbows on her knees, and covered her face with her hands. What else? I asked. Because there is always something else. She didn't lift her head. She spoke into her palms, the words shaped by skin and shame and the kind of tired that's not about sleep. If you'll help us, she said. If you'll keep them safe. If you'll stop the court from taking them somewhere we can't find them, we'll do it your way. My way is their way, I said. She nodded into her hands. Then, so quietly I almost missed it, like a boy under a blanket asking the dark for mercy, he whispered, We'll sign anything. The house woke itself without asking me first. Floorboards stretched. A pipe cleared its throat. The lake tested a voice it would use later. I laid out 2 bowls, 2 spoons, 2 strawberries cut to suggest flowers, and the morning decided it liked us. Emma padded in with her hair making its own choices. Are we still here? You are, I said. You're home for now. She nodded like a girl who appreciates agreements written on good paper. Lucas arrived carrying a notebook labeled Important in purple marker. I made a list, he said. It has piano and toast and we live here. Strong list, I said. Add brush teeth in case future Lucas becomes a politician. After breakfast, we made beds the way Robert taught. Sheets tucked tight so a coin could bounce, though none of us felt like testing gravity with money. In the study, I opened the binder we'd started. Tabs for school, medical, contacts, permissions. Piles became pages. Pages became a thing with a spine. The pediatrician's office fit us in after lunch. The receptionist had the face of a woman who has decided to be kind as a strategy. Temporary guardianship letter, she asked. I slid the signed sheet across. She skimmed, nodded once, returned it like a passport. The doctor did not look surprised to see children who'd slept well. He checked ears and eyes and the knee that pretends to have secrets. Healthy, he said. Bring me the immunization printouts when you get them. He looked at me over the top of his glasses. Clear boundaries make healthy children, he added, like a man who doesn't mind saying obvious things out loud. On the way home, we stopped at the hardware for a second set of the tiny record washers because success breeds superstition. The owner said, "The window's still behaving?" And Emma said, "It purrs." So we were forgiven tax. At 3, we set 2 Adirondack chairs on the porch in the sun where an argument would have to show itself to be warm. I wrote Visit 3 to 5 on the note card and propped it beside the lemonade like a referee's whistle. They arrived on time, Michael and Jennifer both, without a pasta and without a spare plan visible on their faces. The kids waited at the door until I nodded. They ran out, arms up. Michael bent and held them like she'd been keeping breath in a bag and finally let herself inhale. Rules, I said when we sat. Not unkind. 2 hours. On the porch, in the yard. No closed doors, no talking about money, no asking the kids to choose. I wouldn't, she began. Good, I said. Then it'll be easy. For 20 minutes, it worked. Jennifer listened to Emma explain the ethics of catching frogs. Lucas combed Michael's hair with his fingers like he was arranging a thought. Michael asked about the piano's stubborn note and whether gulls could be coached. We had lemonade. The sun kept its part of the bargain. Then Jennifer crouched beside Emma and said, softly enough to think the porch boards couldn't hear, "Hey buddy, pack a bag tomorrow. Surprise your dad. We'll stop for ice cream and just keep going a while." Yeah. Emma looked at me. Not Jennifer. The girl knows where adults put the lines. Jennifer, I said. What? She spread her hands. Just talking. Boundary 1, I said. She leaned back, cheeks puffing. This is stupid. Michael pinched the bridge of her nose like a woman trying to keep 2 kinds of pain from colliding. Please don't, she told her. To me. We're here. We're trying. You are, I said. Try where it counts. We reset. 10 minutes later, Michael started to cry without warning. Lucas folded into her lap like a bird changing perches. We're losing the house, Michael whispered to the air, forgetting the rules or choosing not to remember. We're kids, Lucas said, sharp as a gull's wing. Michael sucked the tears back like a person drawing water through a straw that doesn't quite reach the bottom. You're right, she said. I'm sorry. Boundary 2, I said quieter. Visit's over for today. Jennifer surged to her feet. Because he cried? Because you used them for your relief, I said. Michael nodded without argument that time. She kissed each child on the forehead the way Robert used to bless me when I left for work. Quick, steady, not dramatic. On the drive, Michael raised a hand to me through the windshield. Not a wave. Not a surrender. Something else. When the dust from their tires had settled back into gravel, Emma said, "Ice cream tomorrow?" "Yes," I said. "But you'll still come home." That night, I typed the petition. The county website offered boxes and lines and the kind of drop-down menus that pretend complexity doesn't exist if you click hard enough. I added the letter they'd signed. I added the photographs. I added a transcript of the voicemail where motel landed like a thrown shoe. The printer hummed in the next room, spitting proof. In the morning, we drove to the courthouse, a brick building with stairs that believe in knees. The clerk wore a cardigan in a color that didn't exist before pencils. She stamped things with an authority I admired. "You've got everything," she said, flipping through the stack. "A judge will review the temporary request within the week. If there's a hearing, we'll call with the date." "Thank you," I said. "I like people who make stamps mean something." "We're a dying art," she said, and smiled the way arts do when they know they aren't. Back at the house, the roof asked for attention the way Aunt Margaret promised it would. A branch came down in a storm that sounded like a polite argument at 3 in the morning and landed across the lower east side shingles. No holes, but a dent with opinions. I called a woman named Betty who did not look like a Betty, and she climbed a ladder with the body language of water. "Needs a patch," she said. "Sooner's cheaper than later." She wrote an estimate on paper that crinkled like old maps. She did not write a number I wanted to know, so I didn't. "Do it," I said, "before the rain remembers us." An hour later, Michael called. "We're stable for the moment," she said. "The bank let us schedule an appointment Tuesday if we bring documents and humility." "Bring both," I said. "We need," she hesitated. I could hear the shape of the ask before the words. "Could you spot us the mortgage this month? Just this one, to keep the wolves bored." "No," I said. Silence. "Then you won't even, after everything." "I am helping," I said. "With the children, with order, with sanity. I won't fund a mistake. Not again." "That isn't fair," she said, but without heat. "It's boundary," I said. She exhaled. "Fine. We'll figure it out." "You will," I said. Saturday's visit started better. We set out a puzzle on the porch to give grown-ups a job with corners. For a while, the only sound was cardboard seeking its own kind. Then Jennifer looked up with the face of a woman who's been saving a line. "Pastor Linda says this situation lacks accountability," she said. "She says scripture." "We have our own scripture," I said. "It begins with, 'Don't point to a yard.'" Jennifer's jaw clicked. "You're brainwashing the kids." "Soap beats mud," I said. Michael squeezed her knee under the table, an old marriage signal that says, "Not that weapon." "We're here for our 2 hours," she said to me. "And we'll use them." They did. When the time was up, they left without testing the fence. A small skill, newly learned. On Monday, the school secretary called and said, "We have your forms, including the one you labeled Guardian in block letters that frightened my stapler. If this becomes more than a month, we'll enroll them. Until then, we'll pretend time is patient." Time is not patient. It waited until Wednesday to show us its tricks. The third visit did not last an hour. Jennifer took a phone call. She said she had to take and move to the bottom of the steps where she thought privacy grew like weeds. "I told you," she hissed, not quite whispering. "She'll cave. We'll just show up with their bags and she'll fold. She's soft." Then louder to Emma, "How about tomorrow we go get your stuff? All of it. Surprise Grandma." Emma looked at me again. Lucas stood up, set his cup down very carefully, and said, "We're leaving now because I'm mad and it's better if I don't say more." "That's a skill," I told him. I walked them to the posts ahead of schedule. "Tomorrow," I said to Michael. "You come alone." "Why?" She switched from defiant to afraid in the space of a blink. "Because she's not helping you keep your word," I said. She nodded. Small. "Okay." After they drove off, I sat on the thinking stair with the petition stamped in my bag and felt old in a way that had more dignity than sorrow. The house breathed with me until we matched. The clerk called the next morning. Mrs. Nolan, the judge reviewed your request. There will be a hearing. We'll need both parents present, you present, and any documentation you haven't already filed. The order for temporary custody will be considered. Then. When? I asked. 2 weeks, she said. Thursday. 9. I wrote it on a card and set it on the hall table next to the note card that said, Visit 3 to 5. The 2 cards looked at each other like new neighbors. At noon, Betty patched the roof while Emma narrated like a small sportscaster who loved ladders. Lucas drew a picture of a house with a spine. Frank brought sandwiches and a joke about gulls forming a union. The day reassembled itself piece by piece. That evening, Michael arrived alone. She parked straight. She sat before I invited her to. Why? I told her to stay home, she said. She thinks I betrayed her. Maybe I did. I'm trying to betray the part of me that makes dumb plans. That's the best betrayal, I said. We talked about lists, papers, the way fear invents quick solutions that rot. The kids showed her the washer trick. She applauded like washers were brave. After she left, I washed the lemonade glasses and set them upside down to dry. The phone rang. A number I didn't know. A voice official enough to stand up when it spoke. Mrs. Nolan, we're calling to confirm service for both parties. Your hearing is scheduled. The lake inhaled. The house listened. Thursday, the voice said again. 9. I hung up, dried my hands, and looked at the card on the table. I set Robert's photograph beside it so somebody decent could keep watch. Outside, evening stitched itself across the trees. Neat as you please. Inside, I sat very still and said the time out loud once so the room would learn it. Thursday, I told the house. 9. I spread the papers on the study table until the wood disappeared. The house looked like a file cabinet had sighed. I made columns because columns calm a woman. On the left, what happened? On the right, proof. Doghouse under the maple. Photo. Time-stamped. Suitcases in my room. Photo. Find yourself a motel. Voicemail. Transcribed and saved. Certified letter about the blocked link. Original and copy. HOA unauthorized occupancy. Screenshot from Mrs. Chen. Children sleeping 8 hours and waking hungry. Doctor's note. Healthy, no concerns. $180,000 to start a life that doesn't keep books well. Receipt copies. Bank printout. The flap with my handwriting. I wrote a heading across the top in block letters. Ledger. Then, like a woman counting a different kind of currency, I added 2 more columns. On the left, what I gave that doesn't fit in paper. On the right, what I won't. I gave time, rides, roof, soup, sleep. I won't give dignity, safety, the right to make my own key. At the diner, Frank slid a plate across and leaned on his knuckles. Court, he said, as if it were a weather front. You got representation? I've got a folder and my memory, I said. He tilted his head. Better add a person who knows where to stand. The town has a lawyer who specializes in people like us, which is to say people who need paper to speak kindly. Mr. Thompson kept an office over the hardware store. His waiting room held 2 chairs and a fern that forgives. He wore sensible shoes that said he understood stairs. Tell me only what helps a judge think about the children's best interests, he said. Leave out what proves you're right, unless it also proves they're safe with you. I put the doghouse picture on top. He winced once, professionally, then smiled like he'd caught himself. Facts, he said. Use small words. Use dates. I'm better at small words, I said. Good. He flipped through the stack. This is strong. Don't lead with moral injury. Lead with bedtime. I nodded. He tapped the $180,000. Keep this near the back, he said. It's weight, but don't swing it like a hammer. Judges don't love hammers. What do they love? Calm, he said. And children who know where toothbrushes live. I left with a list. Exhibit stickers, extra copies, a binder that didn't look like it needed attention. On the sidewalk, the lake wind tried on a different jacket and decided to keep it. That afternoon, I walked into Bellamy and Troz, the kind of office where pens live long lives. I'm updating my will, I said to the receptionist. It's an old promise that needs modern ink. Mr. Bellamy listened like a man who knows how many ways families say the word love when they mean different things. A trust, he said when I told him what I wanted for the grandchildren. The house stays whole, conditions simple. School, health, no doghouses. Visitation, I said. If their father earns steadiness, he earns Saturdays. If he keeps it, he earns holidays. If he breaks it, we start again. Gentle but firm, he said. The court appreciates plans that don't pretend people are perfect. I don't, I said. Pretend. We wrote a letter to ride with the will. Not a performance. A map. I explained Lakewood Springs, the quilts, the lamp with the chain, the gull that fails twice and then succeeds, the way a kitchen window can teach patience. I wrote about noise, the kind the house likes, the kind it doesn't. I wrote that money is a tool for roofs, not a leash for people. I wrote that over $1 million is what someone says when they are counting wrong. He slid the pages back for my signature. The pen had weight like a door handle. You understand the cost of this choice? He asked. Yes, I said. It costs wanting to be the hero and settles for being the adult. He nodded and stamped things with a speed that made the stamps feel seen. On Thursday, a week before the hearing, Pastor Linda arrived as if the porch light needed saving. She carried a folder stamped with her church's logo and a voice trained for microphones. Sister Nolan, she said. Let's reason together. We can reason 6 feet apart, I said. On the steps. She looked past me into the foyer like a woman deciding where to place her sermon. I've counseled Michael and Jennifer. They're ashamed. They're repentant. You're making this legal. That invites wolves. Wolves are already here, I said. They come dressed like solutions. You're hardening your heart. I'm hardening the floor. She smiled the way a woman smiles when she thinks she's found the right verse. Scripture says. It says a lot, I said. Today it says I'm their grandmother, not their landlord. She studied me. She says you won't forgive her. Forgiveness is a meal, I said. It's not a key. She opened her folder, then closed it. I'll pray for you, she said, which is what women say when they've run out of authority. Waste it on someone else, I said, and surprised us both. We'll be fine. She left the way people leave when they hope the door will argue with them, and it doesn't. The week showed off its small gifts. Betty finished the patch and whistled as if roofs enjoy music. The school secretary called to say, forms like ours get processed fast when offices see words like temporary. Frank started a rumor that I cooked eggs right, which cancelled one that I needed supervision to work the kettle. The kids learned where we keep towels. They learned that the piano's wrong note squeaks best if you're gentle. 2 nights before the hearing, I laid out clothes like a woman who respects mornings. I placed the binder beside Robert's photo so someone decent could witness. Then I sat at the table and wrote on a card, "Speak for the children, not against their father." I set that card on top. At 7, Michael called. "We'll be there," she said. "We'll be on time. The kids will be with your neighbor." "Frank knows where the benches are," I said. "They'll eat pancakes if the courthouse lets them." She took a breath that sounded like putting a box down. "I told Pastor Linda not to come," she said. "Good," I said. She said families need pastors in rooms like that. "Families need fewer suits," I said. "More chairs." Silence then. "Thank you for walking us to the line and not pushing us off it." Walk yourself, I said. I'm just pointing. Hearing day arrived with the kind of light that makes old buildings pretend to be newly painted. The courthouse smelled like paper that had learned to stand up straight. The bailiff had a mustache that spoke 3 languages. He checked our names like he was folding a list into a pocket. In the hall, we sat 3 chairs apart. Michael had a folder of her own and a face that had slept. Jennifer looked like a woman who'd wrestled a mirror and lost. Mr. Thompson arrived in sensible shoes that said stairs again and tapped my binder like one taps a dog without spooking it. Facts, he said. Small words. If anger tries to talk, let it sit on a bench outside. The clerk opened the door. Nolan, she said, as if calling roll for a class no one wanted. The courtroom was wood and time. The judge wore a robe that fit her shoulders like the day fit her calendar. Judge Morrison, the nameplate said, as if names came with furniture. She looked at us like a woman measuring lumber. Good morning, she said. We're here on a petition for temporary guardianship. Mrs. Nolan is the maternal grandmother. The parents are present. Counsel. Mr. Thompson for Mrs. Nolan, he said, standing just enough. No counsel for the parents, the judge noted, glancing at Michael and Jennifer. You understand you may request a continuance to obtain representation. We understand, Michael said. We'd like to proceed. Very well. She looked down at the file. The petition alleges, among other things, unsafe housing, financial instability, and an incident involving, and I quote, a doghouse. Mrs. Nolan, tell me why I should grant this today. Mr. Thompson nodded and stepped an inch closer to the table. Your Honor, the standard is best interests of the children. We will show current stability in the grandmother's home, willingness to facilitate visitation, and recent events that suggest the children's immediate environment with their parents is in flux. We're not asking to terminate rights. We're asking for structure. Proceed. We proceeded. Small words. Dates. The photograph of the doghouse went down gently like a knife put back in a drawer. The voicemail played short and mean. The certified letter went on top of the bank email, which sat beside the HOA notice, which rested against Dr. Patel's note that said the children looked fine. The binder did its job. The room listened. The judge raised an eyebrow at $180,000 but kept her face. I'm not here to audit past generosity, she said. I'm here to place children. Understood, Mr. Thompson said. The number is context, not cudgel. Michael's turn. She stood with her folder like a raft that had ideas above its pay grade. We made mistakes, she said, voice steady because she'd practiced. We put rent before respect. We asked for help the wrong way, and then we asked the wrong people. We were afraid. We still are. But the kids are our heart. We don't want to lose them to paperwork. We want to do this right. Jennifer tried to smile. It looked like a knot trying to remember how to be rope. We can fix the mortgage, she said too quickly. It's just timing. Everyone's underwater. The judge looked at her like a woman looks at a nail she's not sure about. Ms. agreed, she said. What was your plan the night you suggested Mrs. Nolan find a motel? Jennifer's mouth opened and stayed there. Sound got lost. I was angry, she said at last. I say stupid things when I'm angry. Keep them, the judge said. In your pocket. Pastor Linda tried the door at that moment, like a woman mis-timing her entrance. The bailiff raised a hand without looking. The door stayed closed. The judge noted the movement without rewarding it. Mrs. Nolan, Judge Morrison said, children thrive on schedules. If I grant your petition, what does their week look like? School near the house if this extends, I said. For now, weekend stays with their parents. Supervised by me at first. 2 hours, porch and yard. No talk of money, no asking them to choose. We add time as trust grows. We keep a calendar on the hall table because the universe respects a wall with paper. And what about their relationship with their parents? I'll protect it like I protect the roof, I said. With ladders and rules. She almost smiled, then remembered her job. Mr. Reed, she said, turning. What would you change if the court gives you this structure? Michael looked at the floor and then at me. I'd stop using the kids as a vent, she said. I'd stop acting like panic is a plan. I'd take Pastor Linda's number off speed dial. I'd breathe. Good list, the judge said, surprising us both. Ms. agreed. Jennifer swallowed. I'll stop trying to win, she said. Small. I'll try to be useful. The judge sat with that. The clock on the back wall ticked like a metronome for decent people. Finally, she leaned forward, elbows on the bench. Here is my problem, she said. Everyone says the right thing in this room. It's what happens on Wednesday at 4:15 that matters. She looked down at the file again, then away. The court has broad discretion, she said. But before I exercise it, I want to hear from the only two people who don't seem to be performing. My breath caught before I knew it had. Mr. Thompson's hand found my sleeve and squeezed once. The bailiff understood before we did. Bailiff, the judge said, nodding toward the hall. Kindly ask that the children step into chambers with me. Inform the guardian she may be present but will remain silent. We'll speak informally. The bailiff opened the door. Frank stood up from the bench outside as if summoned by a name I didn't hear. Lucas and Emma set down their pancakes in slow motion. They looked toward the courtroom like it was a cave that might hold a dragon and a friend. I met them at the threshold. Honesty, I whispered. Small words. Say what you need. Lucas nodded. Eyebrows useful. Emma took my hand and then let it go, standing a half-inch taller for practice. The bailiff held the inner door with a courtesy I won't forget. Judge Morrison rose from the bench and disappeared through a side door into chambers. The light in there looked softer. The clock ticked the same. The children walked toward it. The door swung almost closed behind them. Almost. The door to chambers stopped 1 inch shy of shut. It felt like the house at night when a pipe pauses before it clicks. I stayed where the bailiff told me, hands folded, voice off. Frank sat 2 chairs down with a paper cup and a look like he dared the building to misbehave. Michael clasped a folder. Jennifer stared at the floor like she expected it to offer instructions. Mr. Thompson stood still as weather. Minutes grew tall. Somewhere a copier cleared its throat. The clock ticked the kind of tick that keeps women from saying too much. The inner door opened. Judge Morrison came back without the children. She was not smiling. She was not frowning. She looked like a woman who had asked 2 honest people to point to the safest chair in a room and had believed them. She sat. We did. Back on the record, she said, voice even. I spoke with Lucas and Emma in chambers. They were poised, candid, and appropriately loyal to everyone who loves them. They spoke of routines at Mrs. Nolan's home, of clear rules during visits, and of stress in their parents' household related to finances. She shuffled a paper that did not need shuffling. The court orders temporary guardianship to Mrs. Nolan pending review. The children will reside with her in Lakewood Springs. The parents will have supervised visitation on Saturdays from 3 to 5 p.m. at the residence or its yard, supervised by Mrs. Nolan. There will be a midweek phone or video call each Wednesday at 7 p.m. No discussion of litigation or financial distress in the children's presence. No promises about moving, surprises, or packing. Jennifer opened her mouth. Mr. Thompson touched my sleeve with 1 finger. A Morse code that meant, stay. The judge continued. Parents will enroll in a basic money management course through the county within 30 days and provide proof. They will meet with a housing counselor to develop a plan for stable residence. Pastoral counseling is not a substitute for either requirement. If the parties wish to use mediation, they will do so through the county's neutral services, not a party's pastor. Pastor Linda's name did not enter the air and still lost. Mrs. Nolan will ensure the parents' time is honored, the judge said, eyes on me now. She will not withhold the children for minor slights or to punish. If there is a safety concern, she will call the court. Yes, Your Honor, I said. Small words, true ones. The judge looked at Michael. Mr. Reed, you said you'd stop using the children for your relief. Hold to that. Ms. agreed, she turned. Pocket your anger. This isn't a contest. It's a roof. Jennifer swallowed, nodded once. We'll reconvene in 90 days, the judge said. Bring proof of the course, the counseling, and a plan that would let these children spend a night in your home without having to hear adult weather. If that progress is evident, we'll expand visitation. If not, we'll maintain this structure until stability is real. She tapped the file. The gavel lived on her bench, unused. That is the order. The bailiff took the tone a man reserves for sacred objects and handed Mr. Thompson a stamped packet. He slid copies to Michael and to me. The paper felt heavier than paper. We stood. Chairs scraped in a language I understood. Out in the hall, Frank mouthed, "Well," and I let the corners of my mouth tell him. He nodded as if I had finally organized my tools. Michael's eyes shone but did not spill. "Thank you," she said to the judge's closed door, then to me, "for not making this a spectacle." "It's a calendar," I said. "We will keep it." Jennifer blew a slow breath like a woman cooling a spoon. "We'll take the course," she said. "We'll meet the counselor. I'll keep my mouth shut when it's being unhelpful." "That last one is the advanced class," Frank said, appearing at my elbow like a man who knows where to stand. He handed the kids each a napkin-wrapped thing that looked like a folded galaxy. "For bravery," he told them. "Don't tell the court I bribed you." Outside, the courthouse steps felt taller on the way down. The lake wind touched my shirt and decided not to comment. We stood at the bottom because standing is a ceremony when a day shifts. Lucas leaned against Michael's side. Emma offered Jennifer the napkin galaxy. Jennifer held it as if it might run. "Pancake?" she asked. "Pie," Emma said. "Even better," Jennifer said. And for once, it didn't sound like a plan. We walked to the diner to do the only sensible thing women and children can do after a court day. Eat. The bell over the door performed its old job. Frank installed us in the corner booth that knows everyone's knees. "Judge food," he said, setting down plates like prizes. "On the house if you act like people." We acted like people. We let the clatter of forks drown the last frayed threads of performance. The kids narrated the chambers. Soft lamp, plant that might have been a fern or a brave mop, the judge's candy bowl. "She asked if gulls can be beautiful by accident," Lucas said. "I said yes, and she said that was judicially interesting," Emma said. "She didn't say judicially," Emma said. "She said, huh." "Same," Lucas said. A woman in a church team sweatshirt slid out of a booth near the door and approached, hesitating like a person testing a dock plank. "Mrs. Nolan," she said. "I told folks you might be confused. That was unkind. I apologize." I looked at her hands, at the small paper scar near her thumb that said she cut tags off her own sweaters. "Accepted," I said. "We all talk too fast when we don't know what we're looking at." She nodded, relief loosening her shoulders. "You were right about the toast triangles," she said. "Triangles tell the truth," Frank called out from behind the counter and slammed the coffee pot down like a gavel. On the way out, we passed a flyer for the county mediation office. 3 tear-off tabs left. I took one. Michael took another. We didn't say anything. That was the point. Back in Lakewood Springs, Mr. Thompson printed a draft of a parenting plan that made sense on paper and wouldn't lie to Wednesday at 4:15. We read out loud. He adjusted the verbs. Jennifer asked if supervised could come off in 60 days. Mr. Thompson said it can if trust says so. And she didn't argue. We signed. No flourish. Pens did quiet work. At home, I pinned a new calendar to the hall wall. The old one had tried its best. It had earned a drawer. This one wore crisp boxes. I wrote in neat black, Saturday, March 5th. Wed 7. I let the ink dry before I put the cap back on. I rang the lamp chain in the study because I like the small sound a good rule makes. The house let itself breathe. The children ran the wrong piano key and laughed like a story had chosen them. That weekend, the first visit under an order felt different. Not brittle. Clear. The porch knew its job. Michael arrived with a tote bag of snacks labeled with names and a new calculator receipt that said, budget, in her handwriting. She did not talk about bills. She asked Emma to show her the washer trick again and took notes as if washers might apply to other things. Jennifer arrived with 2 folding camp chairs she set up in the yard without asking to move ours. She explained where she'd put them as if coordinates were a kind of apology. She watched the children draw a map of the house and did not suggest detours. Once she started to mention a call with the bank. She stopped at the edge of the sentence and turned it into a remark about gulls. It was clumsy. It was trying. After they left, I stuck a small gold star on the calendar square because I'm not above bribing boxes. I wrote worked in pencil, the kind that forgives erasing. A few days later, the woman from the sweatshirt found me in the hardware aisle considering screws. Our women's circle got ahead of itself, she said, eyes honest. We said words about you we didn't own. We're bringing pie to your house on Friday whether you like it or not. I like pie, I said. Don't tell Frank, she said. I won't, I said. He'll know, she said. The school secretary called. If the parents do their part, we'll have a simple transfer back when the time comes. The kids told me your porch has rules. Good. Betty's patch made it through its first rain with the self-respect of a new hat. The kitchen window slid up and down without showing off. The dehumidifier blinked its little eye, still working, still proving it. And I dumped the water and said, good out loud to a bucket, which is a kind of prayer. One evening, Pastor Linda appeared at the end of the drive, hands deep in her coat, mouth already opening into an explanation. I met her at the posts. She spoke first. I overstepped, she said. Yes, I said. I'm sorry, she said. Thank you, I said. She looked at the initials burned inside the post and smiled like she saw the trick. I'll pray for all of you, she said, quieter. Okay, I said, and meant it. She left without trying to step past the line. On a Wednesday call, Lucas held up a picture he'd drawn of a house with a spine. It's like a book, he told Michael. It stands up because it knows what it is. Michael looked at me through the screen and mouthed, thank you. I pointed at the calendar on the wall behind me as if it were a teammate. That night, after the dishes and the teeth and the chapter where the dog solved a crime by smelling shame, I took out the letter Mr. Bellamy had drafted to ride next to my will. I read it again. It was not poetry. It was a path. It told anyone reading that the estate at Lakewood Springs remains whole for the benefit of Lucas and Emma. It told the future what Saturdays were for. It told money that it works for roofs and school and shoes, not for schemes. It told seasons to mind the quilts. In the morning, I put on the jacket that forgives chairs and drove into town. Bellamy's pen waited on a pad that said, sign here, like a patient usher. He reviewed the trust one more time. Heirs, the grandchildren, he said. Use restrictions, health, education, ordinary joy. Successor trustee, Mr. Thompson, if you're gone and I'm not answering phones. That's his punishment for wearing sensible shoes, I said. He smiled. There's a clause here, he tapped, about visitation. It's elegant. It's plain, I said. That's better. He set the last page in front of me. Any doubt? Just the kind that asks if good fences are lonely fences, I said. They're usually the ones with gates, he said. With hours posted. I looked out the window. A gull failed once at a lamppost and then stuck the landing like it had invented balance. In the glass, my face looked like a woman who had learned to keep her voice low and her lines clear. Bellamy turned the pen so it faced me. It had the weight of a small promise. I signed the updated will, my hands steady. The order taught the house new manners. Saturdays wore numbers. Wednesdays knew their job. The calendar on the hall wall held the squares up like a quiet spine. Mornings, we did breakfast the way Robert liked. Toast, fruit, a small joke if one fit. The kids learned the piano's wrong key by feel. The kitchen window slid without showing off. I wrote small tasks on a card. Oil the hinge. Fix the porch rail. Call Dr. Patel for immunization printouts. Lists behaved when they saw daylight. Michael and Jennifer took the money class. The certificate came printed on paper that wanted to be proud of itself. They met with the housing counselor and used small words like budget and plan without flinching. Pastor Linda stopped calling. The in-laws sent a postcard with a lighthouse and no return address. The rumor about me needing supervision learned the town's rule. Rumors must pay for their own coffee. Most couldn't. We added stars to the calendar after good visits. The first one came when Jennifer caught herself at the edge of a sentence about bills and turned it into a weather remark. It was not elegant. It counted. The second came when Michael folded up a long apology before the kids could hear it and saved it for the porch steps after they'd run inside. The third came because nobody earned it. Some days need mercy. At the 90-day review, the courthouse smelled the same. The bailiff's mustache still knew languages. The judge had the face of a woman whose robe had met a cat. She read the progress notes as if they were posts in a fence being tested. Parents completed the course, she said. Housing counselor report received. No violations of the no money talk rule. Mrs. Nolan, any concerns? Only that time still tries tricks, I said. She nodded. It does. Mr. Reed, Ms. agreed. You've shown effort. The court will extend visitation by 1 hour and allow, after 30 days without incident, a Sunday afternoon in town unsupervised once a month. Pick a place with napkins. Mrs. Nolan, you will handle exchanges. Keep the calendar. We'll review again in 6 months. She looked at each of us the way a woman looks at a level to see if the bubble behaves. We're not graduating anyone, she said. We're posting office hours. After on the steps, Michael touched the folder like it was a thing she could teach. We'll stick to it, she said. Stick is the word, I said. We had to move, she added, like a person placing a stone in the right place. The house, it didn't want us anymore. We found an apartment. 2 bedrooms. Safe. Jennifer hung curtains that almost fit. The kids can visit. It's small. Small is good at telling the truth, I said. Jennifer kept her eyes on the sidewalk. I'm working extra shifts that aren't quite shifts, she said. I carry boxes. The boxes don't argue. Good, I said. That first Sunday, they took the kids to the diner because Frank is everyone's chaperone when paper says so. The kids came back sugared but intact. Michael texted a picture of Lucas's eyebrows raised at a milkshake, which is the only way milkshakes should be seen. Jennifer texted a photo of Emma holding a napkin like a map. No money talk, no swings at fences. 1 gold star, drawn by Lucas, slapped onto the calendar like a challenge to the day. At home, we made a garden behind the house because hands need dirt to remember what they're for. We dug a square, then another. We set string lines like we meant it. Emma named the worms. Lucas announced that tomatoes behave if you speak to them like citizens. We planted beans because beans tell you the truth in climbing. We planted carrots because faith needs practice. We planted marigolds because Aunt Margaret said they keep bad moods from chewing on roots. Michael arrived one Tuesday with a paper bag and a face that had found a steadier place to stand. I sold the chandelier from the city house, she said carefully, eyes on my shoulder, not my face. I know what you'll say. It paid the security deposit. The apartment has honest light. We don't need chandeliers. We need sleep. Then you did the math, I said. She nodded once. I'm sorry about the doghouse, she added. Not as a performance, but as a thing that had been waiting on her tongue. I know, I said. I thought the house could hold my panic, she said. I forgot it was holding you. It held us both, I said. It still does. We sat on the porch in the small quiet that comes when people stop auditioning for each other. After a while, she stood and looked toward the garden. They're okay? She asked, which was not really a question. They're okay, I said. They're learning your good parts and your bad parts have a leash. She smiled, the particular tired smile of a woman who has discovered leashes work best on hearts if they're long. We'll keep showing up, she said. Good, I said. That's the whole trick. I signed the final trust papers at Bellamy's and watched him slide them into a manila envelope like a teacher tucking away a test he knew I'd passed. He gave me a copy of the letter I'd written to the future. I read it on the study steps while the kettle hummed. To whoever minds this house when I'm gone. It began. Reach for the lamp chain before you reach for conclusions. This house is for Lucas and Emma. It is not for sale, not for schemes, not for tests of character dressed as opportunity. Use it for school mornings, for soup, for sleep. Plant things. Be kind to the piano's stubborn key. Money serves roofs and shoes, not the other way around. If gulls fail twice and then succeed, clap. If people fail twice and then try again, clap louder. Keep Wednesdays. Keep Saturdays. Keep each other. I put the letter back in its sleeve and slid the sleeve into the lockbox. On the inside of the lid, I taped a note the size of a pocket. The key is where Margaret left it. Find it and you're already the right kind of person. At the 6-month review, we brought more stars than slips. The judge loosened one knot and left 2 tight. Unsupervised Sundays expanded by an hour. Saturdays stayed what they were. The kids still lived here. The word temporary kept doing the decent thing. Not rushing to decide if it wanted to be forever. Pastor Linda sent a note on church letterhead with too much flourish at the top and none at the bottom. She wrote that she'd taken my name off any lists and put my family on a different one she didn't control. She said she'd stand at her own posts and pray without trespassing. I believed her because women don't pretend humility long without getting good at it. The in-laws stopped sending postcards. Announcements for their business showed up on bulletin boards in towns that weren't ours. I did not follow the ink. Mrs. Chen waved on her mower and kept an eye on the porch when I carried groceries. Frank wrote triangles on the specials board once. No context. And I bought 2 plates of toast and brought one to a woman I didn't know because that's how you cancel a rumor that hasn't even started. On a cold morning that pretended not to be, Jennifer came alone for her Saturday hour. She stood at the posts and looked smaller without defiance. We got a new place, she said. Cheaper. 1 bus from the school the kids know. Not nice. Good. Good beats nice, I said. She nodded. I was wrong, she said. It came out poorly, like a lug nut on the first try. She tried again. About everything. About a yard being a room. About money being a plan. About thinking you were a woman I could move. You're not. That helped us. I looked at the initials burned inside the post, at the small trick that stays true for people who feel like hiding. Try to stay moved, I said. She smiled like a woman who knows she's not good at keeping promises, but has decided to use ladders anyway. She sat on the porch and listened to Lucas play the piano wrong on purpose for a long time. She laughed at the right places and left on time without looking at her phone. The next Wednesday, Michael called at 7 and didn't cry. She held the camera steady and said, "Tell Grandma about the science project." Emma explained evaporation like a preacher with beakers. Lucas described a bird that wasn't asking for beauty and got it anyway. Michael listened to all of it and only once reached for a sentence she didn't need. She let it go. That counts more than people admit. In winter, the lake put on its narrow armor and made noises that sounded like an old ship learning to dance. We learned which rooms ask for socks and which 2 books prevent arguments. The porch chairs went into the shed, and the shed forgave them. The calendar got thicker. Stars piled in the corners of squares. When the first thaw came, Betty waved her hat from the roof and announced we'd lived through a season like a woman awarding us a badge. The dehumidifier's orange eye blinked a little faster, proud of its bucket. The kitchen window sighed and performed. The piano key kept its character. The house stayed itself. On the day the final will came back from recording, stamped with the county's mark, I put it on the dining table and let it sit where sunlight could count it. I made 2 calls. To Mr. Thompson and to Bellamy, thanking them in the only language people like that respect. Small words, promises kept. Then I called Michael. It's done, I said. The will, the trust. The house is for them. There's a map. If I vanish, you won't like all of it. You'll respect it. There was a pause long enough to build a step. I already do, she said. And I'm still sorry. Keep being sorry where it helps, I said. I will, she said. We're okay, Mom. Not fixed. Okay. Okay, I said. Sing it soft and often. That evening, we ate stew that had the good habit of getting better after saying nothing all day. The kids told me 3 jokes that leaned too hard on bananas. After dishes, I turned off the chandelier in the dining room with the pull Robert said made us look like we owned a hotel. The room settled. The study lamp chain clicked. The house drew in, comfortable and sure. On the porch, the air smelled like new dirt. The rose we'd cut last fall waited under a skin of old leaves. I took a rake and cleared the last of winter's confetti. Emma came out carrying a trowel like a knight pretending kindness. Lucas followed with seed packets and a look that said leadership would be required of the peas. We knelt. We set the string lines. We made small holes with our thumbs and learned again the math of hope. The road out front stayed quiet. The phone stayed where it was. The house kept the kind of silence that wants to watch. I heard the door behind me and looked over my shoulder. Michael stood there, hands empty, face open. She didn't step onto the porch. She didn't try to bless anything. She watched the children arrange the world in inches and nodded like a woman agreeing with a language she'd finally learned not to translate. I'll go, she said. Let you finish. Her voice didn't argue with itself. Stay, I said. The Rose don't mind. She shook her head once, kindly. Saturday, she said. 3 to 5. We'll use it. She went. The screen door sighed the way screen doors do when days behave. The light went thin and good. The soil held the smell of coins and rain. Emma pressed a seed into her hole and looked up, eyes solemn, dirt on her cheek like proof. Lucas tapped the trowel twice, ceremonial, and set it down just so. A breeze moved across the yard and made the string line sing a note the piano doesn't have. I sat back on my heels, wiped my hands on my jeans, and looked at the house that had said yes to a lot and no to what it had to. The calendar inside would keep its squares. The letters in the lockbox would keep their map. The lamp chain would keep its small right sound. Behind me, from the doorway, a small voice tested the space between question and answer and found it safe. Grandma, can we plant one more row? If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below. Even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.